welcome to day 2 of the National Immigrant Inclusion Conference. We are your lead host. I'm Kawelokū with the National Partnership for New Americans. Thank you. As we start today's session, I want to kick us off with some ruminations I had at 2 a.m. in the morning, preparing for our very important keynote. So I could come up here and I could spend my time talking about immigrant inclusion and the policies and the strategies and the defensive posture we're going to take and all the things that you all are going to talk about in tracks and in meetings and in the days and weeks following this gathering. But what I really want to talk about is maybe in this breakdown moment we have an opportunity for a breakthrough. Maybe part of our strategy is deepening our community of practice. Maybe part of our strategy is developing our sense of grounding, of being able to be present in what's happening now so that we can think of where we need to be in 4 weeks, 4 years, and 4 years after that, and 4 years after that, and even beyond that. And so today's speaker is really going to ground us in that sentiment, and then it will be followed by an incredible panel of folks who will really take stock of the moment. So it's my pleasure to introduce this year's NIIC keynote speaker, who I was introduced to last year as a Rockwood Fellow and left an indelible mark on me as a human being listening to things that felt like ancient wisdom that are deep inside me that just need unearthing. I hope that we have the opportunity to really kind of ground ourselves in the moment and think of how one day we will be looking back at this time and know that we are guardians of the progress that we've made as a country and as a nation. So no matter what role you may take in the work ahead, whether you're a defender or a resistor, or you're a person who silently and very quietly is guarding the progress that we've made over the last several years in our movement, know that everybody has a role, and that starts with us grounding ourselves. So with that, I'm pleased to introduce Norma Wong. Norma is a native Hawaiian Hakka, lifelong resident of Hawaii. She's a scholar, Zen teacher, writer, and movement leader that's been involved in social justice, environmental justice, and electoral politics for over 30 years. Norma is a practitioner of indigenous and Zen practices for transformational change, and her new book, When No Thing Works, underscores the principles of resilience, collective care, and co-creation. Please join me in welcoming our NIIC keynote, Norma Wong.
Good morning. I don't do speeches. I can't see you, which helps. They have these big lights here. They're going to tell me to stand back here so that I don't provide an echo. Did I say I didn't do speeches? I did. I said yes because Nicole asked. And it seems like a good time that when someone you know asks you to do something, to step up and to do it. It just seems like a good time to do that. I'm very far away from the place that I live. I live in Hawaii, which is about as far away as you can get and still be in this country called America. And this is not what I usually do. And so I had to think very hard about what it is that I would do. And I realized that one of the reasons I was struggling is because normally, if I were at home, I would not just get down to business, right? I would do other things first that would be customary and traditional to my people. But this is a different place than where I usually am. And so I decided that I would accustom myself to this place, and I would go backwards in what it is that I would normally say. And so I would begin with the hard truth for me as someone who is more of an observer than anything else. And that democracy is not a given. It is not a given. And we are living in a place where we pride ourselves as being one of those places that gave birth to this thing. But we are very young. This country is very young. Among the countries of the world, many of you have come from places that are much older than this country, have much more experience than this country, who have gone through the various cycles that apparently this country is now going through. We are a teenager as far as countries go, because the notion of places that govern themselves is a long and long history. So democracy is not a given. It is a social construct. It is a system. It is a system in a time in which all systems are having difficulty. We are in a time-place of collapse, and this time-place of collapse is neutral with respect to what will collapse, which is to say, all things that are human-made will have difficulty at this time, and we are. Systems and constructs, institutions and organizations, the ones that we cherish and the ones that we may have spent our entire life trying to take down. By the way, if you've been spending your entire life trying to take something down, your job is done, because all of those things are collapsing onto themselves. This is just a thing. It is a thing that is happening in the world. All you have to do is to see in the paper every day or in the social feed. I use a paper because I have a flip phone, and flip phones are not very good for social feeds. But all you have to do is to look at the news, and you will see that to be true. When authoritarian dictatorships have difficulty holding on to power and fall all of a sudden after a great war, a long conflict, and they're doing it at the same moment when other systems in other parts of the world are also struggling, then you know that collapse is a neutral thing. It isn't one that we should think is actually an attack on us and our beliefs, unless we're unsteady about what it is that we actually believe, unless we're trying to figure it out. And I believe that we are at a time when we're trying to figure it out. And that's not a bad thing to be doing, to be figuring something out rather than taking it for granted, to be trying to struggle to understand who it is that we are, to understand who are we becoming in a world that is in great difficulty, in a world that is subject, wherever it is that you are, to the environmental collapse, and therefore all the things that happen when people and beings and the earth itself are struggling to figure things out. As it turns out, almost every being in the world, including the land itself, is adapting and evolving much faster than we as human beings. We as human beings take our own things that we have created for granted. We believe that what we have created will last forever. And that is simply not the case. It is simply not the case. Democracy, if it is not a social contract, not a set of rules, but a thing that people can understand with each other, they had figured out together, is not much good use at all. And in this country, we have a problem. We have a distinct tearing with respect to the notion of whether or not a democracy is a construct of social equality if we continue to think of ourselves primarily as individuals. as individuals that you may have rights, and as individuals that you would succeed, and as individuals you would strive, and as individuals you would win the lottery. As individuals you'd become an oligarch, and as an individual you'd find yourself on the street unable to make it. In this country, we've been built on the notion of individualism and individual rights. And it is a very tough thing, I believe, for us to make this turn in which all humanity is in peril if we do it as individuals, even as individuals in a large community such as this ballroom, even in a large community such as this. Because if you're a community second and individuals first, then your individual needs will take precedent over other parts of the community. You will always have a thing in your mind and a desire in your heart and a notion in your gut that, well, what about me? What about me? And this is a thing in this country. But you know, we're in a maturing moment. That too is possible if you're a teenager. You can grow up. You can grow up. You can look around and you can decide that the remaining part of your life, which means the remaining part of the life of all of the descendants of all of the people who are in this room, all the people who are not yet born, that it could actually move towards something else. That is a possibility. I said I was going to do it in reverse order, didn't I? Yeah. So at some point, I would have pointed out that I don't usually actually wear what I'm wearing. So if you look for me on the street, that's not me. Right? I bought statement glasses just for this occasion. Okay? I wore something that was gifted to me recently just for this occasion. It's a zigzag. Zigzag is a designer in Hawaii who makes bold clothing that is designed after the natural aspects of Hawaii in terms of the design, but is very bold in its color. And I believe that Zigzag does that because he's Chinese, which goes for the boldness of the color, and because he has adopted and adapted into a family of Native Hawaiians that have been his lifelong love, the Kanakaole family on the Big Island of Hawaii. And so therefore, of course, his designs would be of the earth. Zigzag is older than I am, but he's third generation Chinese American. Although in Hawaii, we do not use the hyphenation. People could consider us American or not, we actually don't care. But we're very proud about our ancestors. If we have 40 different places that our ancestors came from, we will name them all. And we won't name them in the order of the amount of ancestry. We will name them in the order of the pride at the moment, adding all the others at the end. Okay? He's third generation Chinese. He's older than I am. I am fifth generation Chinese. There are now My nieces and nephews now have children, and so therefore, the 7 generations in this country from the Hakka Chinese side, who are nomadic people, who came to Hawaii as plantation workers, as contract workers, and did not return. This is something that I hold with me, and I hold with me that in the 2nd generation, the Hakka, who came primarily only as men. So if you do the math, if you're still in Hawaii and your ancestors came at that time, you could not be only Chinese. And indeed, I am not. In the 2nd generation, several of my ancestors married Native Hawaiians, and so therefore I am also Native Hawaiian, the indigenous people of Hawaii, who came to that place called Hawaii 81 generations ago. We were part of the land before it became a territory, before it became a state. I was born before Hawaii became a state, in the territory of Hawaii. My name is Norma, and not a Chinese name or a Native Hawaiian name, because when I was born in 1956, the memory of World War II and the long duration of martial law of all the people in Hawaii was still very strongly upon the minds of my parents and their parents. And so, of course, all of us would be given English names, even though by our appearance, we obviously could not hide. But we were all given English names nonetheless. I did not take on a Native Hawaiian name until I was 60 years old, when I believed that I had grown into it, finally, and given that name by descendants, by people who are younger than I am, who, because of the political work I did, were able to grow up in more than one language, and who are fluent in both Olelo Hawaii, as well as in English, as well as the pidgin of the land. And so there is this part about not forgetting, and that notion that to be in this place called America, you need not become something that you are not. You can figure it out. You can retain the integrity of the long ancestral past as you figure out what it is that your descendants will be doing 140 years from now. If you do not, then you're just tossed and turned in the whims of the dreams of people who may not have your best interests at heart, who believe more in their individual well-being than in the well-being of the whole. For us to be able to tell a continuing collective story of who it is that we are becoming, and not a homogenized whole, we have agency over that. When the last Native Hawaiian ruler, Liliuokalani, lost indigenous rule in Hawaii, it was a time of breaking. And in that time of breaking, the people who came to support the Native Hawaiians were the Chinese. Because the Chinese who came as contract workers, the first non-white immigrants to Hawaii, saw in the Native people their own, people who love family, who love land, and among all things, love food. And if you can eat together, then you know you can live together. And they did. And so they pledged their support to the native people rather than to the people who did not share food. And they did that. They will always be remembered by the native people for that. There will always be a familial bond. And in this day and age, a long time from then, people who decide that they're going to make community with each other figure it out. Even when governments fail, we feed each other. When FEMA doesn't arrive, we shelter each other. When things go bad, when there's a shipping strike, no one will be without toilet paper. These are things. They're important. When someone is in trouble, we take care of them. And we try to help them come back out of that place so that they can be a supporting citizen of the community, if not recognized by the country. If you're a supporting citizen of the community, then you stand in governance, irrespective of what flag may be flying at the time, because flags are impermanent, as Liliuokalani knew, as she found out. When we became a territory, we knew there would be no return. And it was a sad and breaking time in that place called Hawaii. But Liliuokalani went door to door, and she said, under the law of the white man's country, you are given the power to vote. And so now you must. You must. You must do this thing, because to not participate is to disappear. And if we disappear, then soon we will not be people anymore. We must remember who it is that we are by what we value, by our ways, by how we care for each other, irrespective of whether the government at the time is going to be capable of doing that for us. Whether the government at the time is paying attention to us or not. Whether the government at the time values us or not. We stand. We stand as people. That is who we are. And so, of course, I had to wear red. How could I hide? Even though this is not my thing, not my jam. To be here with you, right? Okay. It is my responsibility. It is my honor. It is everything, because this moment requires us to understand that, and to understand that wholly. We have yet to figure out what it means to be whole, but what I know is that that cannot exist unless one by one, we hold humanity accountable, even more than governments, that we hold humanity accountable. We have a word in Hawaii. It's called aloha. And aloha has been misused by the tourist industry. It doesn't mean what the tourist industry says it is. Aloha, lo means the foundation, and ha is breath. And the native people believed that without breath, spirit does not exist. And so when we greet each other and we say aloha, what we mean is we share breath with you, we share spirit with you, we share our life with you. Our life is with you, and your life is with us. We cannot continue, we cannot survive, we cannot thrive without breath and without life. And so I thought maybe we might begin by actually breathing with each other. Will you do that with me? Yes. Right, okay. If you can stand, yeah. Okay. Okay. So we're going to breathe basically just by bringing our hands up like this, and we're going to inhale. And then we're going to exhale as we come down. Right. And we're going to do that 3 times, but as we exhale, we're going to hum. Okay. There should be a glorious sound in this room, right? Don't hide. Don't lip sync your hum. Okay, ready? Okay, take the breath. Okay, you can do better than that. Okay, I think we're going to have to do a vowel because a hum, you folks, everybody thinks that they're humming and they're pretending. Okay, so we're going to 3 times, okay, right? Okay, we're going to do a vowel. We'll do O, okay? All right, ready? Okay. O. Aloha, my name is Norma Wong.